What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher, shaking off some of the cobwebs of the offseason. And back to the mics to talk with you guys about the injuries in the NBA. Just a little team slate to whet the appetite in advance of a big Wednesday slate. Mike, how are you doing? Looking very professional today. On the opening
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I was just writing all day and I had like a running shirt on. I just threw it on. It's like, oh shoot, I'll dress up for the big day. So I grabbed one of the shirts. Special occasion, baby. It's like Christmas. You don't get dressed up for Christmas, but I get dressed up for NBA opening day. So yeah, really pumped. Writing away over here, running matchups for tomorrow, but certainly prepped. Matchups was fun to write today. A lot of complicated, a lot of new pieces going on here. So it's a really fun article to write today. Excited to talk about the injury side and rotations to look at tonight.
Yeah, we're super pumped to have you guys back. See a lot of energy in the chat. Appreciate all of you watching, subscribing to the channel. That's the big one, man. We got over 5,000 subscribers last year. Thank you for your support there. We decided to keep this show in front of the paywall this year because of your support on that end. But let's get into the games. Let's give the people what they want. Let's give them the injury information here. Let's start with the New York Knicks, who are going to be without Precious Achiuwa and Mitchell Robinson tonight, in addition to Kevin McCullough Jr., a G League two-way player. You can see the Knicks injury report is, pretty thin, the rotation here. You've got our depth charts up here, which are available for in-season NBA subscribers to our DFS platform. Mike, what do you think the impact of no Precious Achiuwa and Mitchell Robinson has on this rotation tonight?
The impact is they've got no depth. And then don't forget, as all of you guys know, they basically made a 2-for-1 trade to pick up Karl-Anthony Towns to trade one of their best pieces in Dante DiVincenzo. So we know their starting lineup is going to be Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Karl-Anthony Towns. And we know for sure that their 8 guys are going to be campaigned behind Brunson. We'll see how much overlap we get. We know Deuce McBride is going to play a ton. He'll be their lead bench guy in minutes. And then the only other guy we feel really good playing is Jericho Sims, who's a 5. But now they do have Karl-Anthony Towns who could space the floor. Maybe they're a little bit more open to that. Certainly they were even playing that in the preseason with Precious, so maybe they're a little bit more open to playing him. So, yeah, the headline here is like on the opening night of the rotation, there's a pretty damn good chance that this team plays 8, which, is pretty odd, but it would be quite Tibbsian to do that. And then also should note they don't play again until Friday, so they might really let him go in a game they want to get against their division rivals down I-95. So, yeah, how many minutes do we see? We don't want to put 36s on guys, but if a situation did call for it, it would certainly be this one, given the coach, given the setting, and again, just given the lack of, the next guys in would be like Daddy Kolek, then maybe Jacob Toppin, just a massive gap from their 8th man to their 9th and beyond.
Yeah, it's interesting because while we know Tibbs for having kind of the really high minute ceilings in the past, in opening games, he's been a little bit more conscientious of kind of the minutes and ramping up guys. We saw Brunson kind of stuck around 31, 33 the last few openers. But as you alluded to, this is a different Knicks team in terms of the depth. And it's also, sort of a statement, right? You go all in on the Bridges, Cat acquisitions, you face the champs on opening night. You kind of want to make a statement. So I'm interested to see, certainly having a hard time figuring out how high to go on the main guys here. And then that impacts kind of how optimistic we want to be on the bench pieces. And as we've talked about kind of all off season with the Knicks, they are just a little tilted to guard heavy, and specifically smaller guard heavy, which is really hard as your depth.
Mm-hmm.
We liked what we saw from Tyler Kolek, the rookie, in the preseason, but hard to break a rotation when it's Jalen Brunson, campaign, Tyler Kolek, Miles McBride, Deuce McBride, for those who are informed. So it's hard to break that rotation for Tyler Kolek. So we could see things pretty tight here from the Knicks side of things. Boston side of things, they will start the season without Kristaps Porzingis. This will be the case for a while here. Otherwise, nobody else on the injury report. We did see Al Horford get in a game in a preseason warmup, was able to start that game. I know there was some buzz around whether Luke Kornet would kind of start. They have been comfortable playing multiple bigs at times, so Kornet's role could be, substantial even off the bench here. But what are your expectations for this Boston rotation to start the season?
Yeah, we feel pretty good that we know this rotation, at least going 8 deep. We know Drew, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and we should think that Al Horford's going to start. Some buzz that it could be Kornet to keep Horford in the bench role. But should note, Kristaps Porzingis, who had foot/ankle surgery, is going to be out until but perhaps January. Porzingis said he's hoping for early December, but we know players are generally more optimistic. As we said all last week, that term hopeful has not run very good. Looking at Joel Embiid, Kawhi Leonard, and Chris Middleton, I could keep going. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So I feel pretty good about that starting lineup. We know Cornette's going to play a pretty good bit. We know Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard, who I'll talk about in a second, will play a bunch. That's their for sure 8. Feel quite good that Xavier Tillman is their 9th man. Ran a little bit of a hybrid 4-5 in the preseason. We saw him play a bunch of 4 yesterday. Given the Knicks, could still have some rebounding strength, even though it's a little bit different. We know how they like to attack the boards. Feel pretty good about Tillman filling at the 4 spot. So that should be their 9th man. We did see Sam Hauser and Jordan Walsh kind of split that last-ish man if they did want to go deeper. Don't think it's necessary here. Certainly fresh bodies. But looking at the preseason, we saw Drew Holiday's minutes were pretty light. Routinely would sub out for entire quarters at a time to play Peyton Pritchard in his place. I think it was just by design. They wanted to get Pritchard more reps. And Drew, probably had the biggest workload with how much he played for Team USA. He's a little bit older than Derek White. So it just made a bunch of sense because see Drew Holiday come right back and snap back to being, one of their main minutes guys, really their 3rd minutes guy behind Tatum and Brown. He was running ahead of White most of the time. Other than that, this team's pretty much healthy to go. It'll be, raising banner 18 overall. And matchups are really fun to talk about. We can save that for later, but with the wing defense, it should be really fun to write this article talking about matchups. And, I should note the Knicks are going to run a switch heavier scheme according to Tibbs, which can make it tougher on some of their perimeter players.
Yep. And should also note Missoula ran things pretty tight to start the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, they had Kristaps Porzingis in that one. So Al Horford was like their lead bench player last year, and he played like 25, 26 minutes in the opener. But the next highest was like 14 minutes for, I think Hauser maybe got to 14 and Pritchard 11. It might have been flipped between those two. But that's sort of, again, the thing here that is tricky to see on opening night is like, how much are these guys going to stretch? And Boston certainly doesn't have the same level of depth last year. We saw like Hauser and Pritchard really, really great plays in the postseason. They played really, really well. And then Pritchard was preseason MVP. So looking forward to seeing if those guys can make kind of more of an impact there. I'm also interested to see just generally like what the approach from Boston is this year after a long playoff run that culminated in winning the championship. That has been many long playoff runs that a lot of their players played on Team USA. Like, I'm very interested to see kind of how much they lean into those starters early in the season. Matchup against Tibbs might influence you on national TV with the longer timeout breaks to lean in. But I'm very interested to see that because Peyton Pritchard, #my guy this year, is somebody that I'm keeping my eye on. Certainly for when we're shorthanded in terms of plays missing, but even in terms of his normal bench role, what it looks like. Okay. Let's move to
Minnesota. Should note really quick before we move on, if I can, Dink. They play the Wizards on Thursday. That's a Peyton Pritchard spot, right? Like, play these guys a ton today and let Pritchard go ham on Thursday.
It could be, for sure. All right, let's look at Minnesota and the Lakers. Minnesota side, nothing on the injury report. They are fully clean here. Obviously, they are integrating some new pieces, and they are extremely deep. I think the big question on the Minnesota side this year is ultimately more along the lines of, like, look, this team played 9-man rotations pretty much all year long last year. Is that the preference for Chris Finch and the staff that they prefer 9-man rotations, or was that the personnel that they had to have 9-man rotations? Because this team is much deeper. Not only do they acquire Dante DiVincenzo in kind of this 2-for-1 trade where they get Julius Randle and DiVincenzo for Cat, but they also draft Rob Dillingham in the top 10 picks. They also have a breakout off-season training program from Josh Minot. So they have like a lot of players that are intriguing here. And so you look back to their preseason kind of rotation opener, or I shouldn't say opener, their preseason like walkthrough that looked like kind of the dress rehearsal. It didn't have Naz Reid, if I'm remembering correctly, so it was down one player, but they only played 9 guys. Rob Dillingham didn't play in the first half at all in that game. And the question is, like, Ingles and Minot, like, are those 2 guys in the rotation? Are they playing 9 or are they playing 10? That's the big question for me on Minnesota side. There's nothing really health-wise to kind of figure out here, but a deeper team, are they going to go to the 10-man rotations this year? What are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I feel like Dillingham's the most likely to be out of the rotation. So we know the starting lineup. It's going to be Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert. We know their 6, 7, 8 are, as we said, really all offseason. They have arguably the best 6, 7, 8 in the league with Dante DiVincenzo, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Naz Reid. And then you're talking about who's ninth. It's really between perhaps one or two guys that they wanted to go to 10. I think based on the commentary, it feels like Ingles has an inside track. But as you mentioned, Josh Minot has been incredible with the shooting and with the defense. He's got size. I think that kind of helps with the way the Lakers are going to play. They have a pretty big front court. It makes a ton of sense that Josh Minot would play and perhaps be ahead of both. We'll see there. But yeah, he's done all he can to quote unquote earn it there. So I feel quite strongly that Dillingham's not going to play. It's just a matter of if they're going to get Ingles and Minot in there or just one of them. So that's where we're at rotation wise. Other role wise, we'll see how much Dante DiVincenzo could cut into Mike Conley. We know Mike Conley was always playing, 29 minutes, 30 minutes every game. Does that come down now that he's got better options? We saw Dante run on a pick and roll. Certainly outrageous 3-point volume. That's going to be needed. Losing Karl-Anthony Towns 3-point shooting will be big. Should also note that part of that 3-point puzzle piece they want to fill was Anthony Edwards. He actually led the preseason in first half 3-point shots per game. That's been a big talking point in improving his catch and shoot stuff. We'll see if that pans out there. And how many minutes does Julius Randle play? We saw him just return from the shoulder injury. Looked good. Minutes were normal for a first half rotation. But, how comfortable is he in Chris Finch's defensive scheme? Pretty complicated. We saw Karl-Anthony Towns get played off the court at times. They'll never forget, when Charlotte, when he's got 60 points and he can't close. So I could see Randle perhaps being a little bit more vulnerable. They certainly want to get Nasri's minutes. So I think Julius Randle, who we all unanimously feel does not have the same minute ceiling they did with Tibbs here. So I think Julius Randle could be a little bit more susceptible in certain matchups overall. But yeah, as you mentioned, really, really strong rotation here. Ant-Man should be quite busy on the Lakers team that's really shorthanded on defenders.
Yeah, the one thing that I'll note about Julius Randle, while I agree vulnerable to losing more playing time over the course of the season than Cat, this might not be the best matchup for it just because the Lakers' size and the Lakers' lack of depth issues that we're going to talk about in a second might force them to play a little bit bigger on the whole. And so it just might be a situation that Julius Randle, it's a harder matchup for Julius Randle to kind of get played off the floor and downplayed. I also think those types of situations that we'll see that are probably more guard dominant scoring combos, right? That you want to get Nickeil Alexander-Walker out there a little bit more, but you also need the shooting of Dante DiVincenzo, and that's kind of where we get into Julius maybe being vulnerable. I think this matchup against the Lakers might keep Julius more around kind of the normal minutes. And like you said, good to see the conditioning in the first game. He played 26 of the first 20, 30 minutes, or 24 of the first 29 minutes, something like that in that one preseason game that he played. So that was good.
Yeah, they really like to use Nickeil Alexander-Walker on D-Lo too from the past couple of years too. So a couple of ways that that Dillingham and the other guys can get cut down. It could be Nah. We think Dante, but Nah could play more than we think.
Yep. All right, Lakers side of the equation, they are without bigs. No Christian Koloko, no Jared Vanderbilt, no Christian Wood. Surprisingly, even though they're without bigs, they still have a lot of bigs that they trust. The roster is just very big heavy in general. So what are your expectations for what we see from the Lakers tonight? ESPN reporting that Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. have been invited to the game tonight, making us all wonder if we're going to see immediately from the get-go Bronny James enter the game tonight. What are your expectations for this Lakers rotation?
Yeah, let's be full national media boy first and talk about that because, as you mentioned, Ken Griffey did an interview saying he brought his dad out there. He wants to go out there and share the moment. LeBron just had a comment that was shared saying that they, kind of hope it happens. Shams Charania is on this. Obviously, I think the point here is just get this thing over with, man. We're gonna have to deal. It's like I've talked about this all offseason. The amount of content on this is just insane. So it seems like it may be detrimental to oh, look at JJ. He's folding to the national media. Dude, get it over with and just get it out of the way. Yeah. So I think to me, I was trying to think of the most likely scenario. I think, play LeBron the full first quarter, call timeout with 20 seconds left in the first quarter, let him run for 20 seconds, get your photo ops between quarters, gone. I think that's the most likely scenario to be, or halftime or something, or third quarter, something like that. I think that makes the most sense to me. I'm not expecting Bronny to play more than 2 or 3 possessions per game. So certainly, you're not playing Bronny James. Let's talk about the injury report. Do you have anything you want to add on that before we move on? No,
I think you're probably right. I thought more about this, and I try not to get too narrative induced, but just generally, LeBron's been pining for this for years. I mean, this is something he's been talking about for years. It is something that you also, it's weird to say with LeBron because he's been one of the most durable athletes of all time, but he's up there in age. You just don't want to take anything for granted. Like we're, something you just want to get it out of the way. So I'm in agreement with you. I think we'll probably, and also like it's a late game, national TV game. People are going to be tuning in. Wouldn't be surprised to see it in the first quarter, like you said, and just get it out of the way and move on. But yeah, in terms of the lack of depth in the front court with no Vanderbilt, no Christian Wood, no Christian Coloco, how does that impact how you expect the Lakers to play tonight?
Yeah, I want to talk about Vanderbilt first. He's just with a right foot injury. If you may have been following, he had surgery on both feet in the offseason. The doctor went in with a bone spur to his right foot and then opted to get surgery for his left foot. So this is the one that was actually injured and why he got surgery, which is kind of more concerning to me. Out 2 weeks, not good. As you mentioned, they're just missing it where they need it kind of badly, especially in this matchup against Gobert, against Randall, against Naz Reid, against a team that can rebound pretty well. There. So yeah, he's out. Christian Wood's still going to have, a few weeks left to rehab. He's said he's feeling pretty good, but expecting him back next month. So starting lineup, D'Lo, Reeves, who returned from an ankle injury. We saw him manage one game and then got pretty much back to normal back then. So he'll be fine. Good to go. LeBron's good to go. Rui's been great. Rebound rates up in the preseason. Anthony Davis, huge role from him in the preseason. First in the NBA in half court possessions. Just fed over and over and over again. We saw the 3-point stuff boost. Could be a big AD night even against Gobert. So bench, Max Christie's firmly their sixth man. Been subbing in a lot. We'll see if he can maybe cut in a D'Lo perhaps. They need the on-ball defense. None of their starting lineup guys can guard Ant. They've asked Austin Reeves to pick up that role, so could see Max Christie play a pretty good bit. And then Jackson Hayes, we'll see how many minutes he can get in there. Gabe Vincent will cover the non-D'Los, perhaps, overlap a little bit. We'll see. I don't think he's going to guard Ant there. So that's 8. And then obviously we know JJ Redick said he wants to run 9. If you watch the preseason, quite obviously Dalton Connect has done more than enough to earn the 9 spot in the rotation. So feel quite strongly that's their 9-man, as those 9 kind of created, maybe not Gabe Vincent, but it's not like Jalen Hood-Schifino, who was arguably the worst player in the preseason from a shooting standpoint. And then Cam Reddish has been quite bad. So yeah, I feel pretty good about that 9-man rotation there.
Yep. All right. That will do it for the initial version of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. We'll be back tomorrow for a loaded slate with many more injuries and many more questionable tags to deal with. Right now, just out tags, so it's kind of straightforward to deal with. But tomorrow we get a 10-game slate to kind of get the juices flowing again. We'll be checking the clock, checking the timer, see if we can get out in under an hour as we talk through all the injuries tomorrow. But want to thank you guys for bringing all the energy in the chat. It's good to see all the names and screen names and faces that we've seen supporting our work and our content over the years. Really appreciate you guys and very excited to go forth on this journey. If you're interested in joining us along this journey on the premium content side, we have a couple different offerings at establishedrun.com. You can go establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA for more details there. But we've got our in-season DFS product that includes Mike Gallagher's matchups column, top plays 6 days a week, projections for every game, live shows 5 days a week. It'll be myself and Mike Gallagher on the bulk of those live shows during the course of the season. We'll be on tonight breaking down this 2-game slate, talking about the good chalk, the bad chalk, the contrarian plays, and kind of how to approach 2-game slates. Office hours with myself every other week. Strategy content from Winky Christ, as well as we brought Winky on the team. We're really excited to have his written content on the team as well, and so much more. Access to Discord, talking through a lot of sharp subscribers, talking through plays and approaches in there as well. So the in-season DFS package is available there. And then, of course, our NBA player props package. If you're unfamiliar with our work in the player props arena, you can check out one of our previous videos posted here on this YouTube channel, breaking down our success over the past 3 years. Highly encourage anyone who is subbing to the player props package to read that FAQ very closely. It's very important. It will be difficult to get bets. We make this only a weekly subscription so people can try it and see if it works for them. If they're able to get bets, get use out of the product. Lots of different ways to do it. Our full stat projections detail will release at 5 o'clock Eastern for anyone who wants to make bets on their own as well. So check out that subscribe tab. If you are interested in supporting this free content and not joining us on the premium journey, or you want to support this free content in addition to joining us on the premium journey, we'd love for you to smash that like button, press it firmly, hold it gently, whatever you'd like to do, caress it, but make sure to smash it and help feed that algorithm. You help feed the algorithm, it helps feed our families and allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis you need each and every day to set your season-long lineups, your DFS lineups, and make your spread bets and your prop bets. So smash that like button, feed that algorithm. Nom, 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 nom. Let's all eat this season. We'll see you again tomorrow.